Good afternoon, friends. Welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful day here on the homestead. So today's video I'm going to be talking about, as the title says, my homemade fire defense plan, my fire defense trailer, and the trailer that I'm going to be using to not only defend our home and the homestead and the outbuildings and stuff from fire, but also water my gardens and trees and that kind of stuff that are around the property. This is something that I've been wanting to do since we moved or bought the property and built the house and stuff. Because we do live in an area of the state that is drier, and so we're more susceptible to wildfires from somebody flicking out a cigarette or a train passing by and causing sparks. And it seems like every grass fire we've had in the last 9 months to the last year have been caused by one of those two things. And then always the winds are crazy. Right now the winds are like 5-6 miles an hour, but we get sustained winds anywhere from 20 to 30 mile an hour, and then we get gusts upwards of 60. And we had a fire last fall that started with a power line that arced, and when it arced, the wind was blowing 60 miles an hour from the south, and it took out 7 miles of prairie land and cut wheat fields just straight in front of it, and it burnt with a vengeance. And the firemen who were fighting that fire and the farmers that were helping fight it were just going around and digging fire lines around homes and defending the structures in its path, letting the grass burn itself out. So luckily I was clear of that fire by several miles, but I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to defend our homestead from anything like that later on. So I have remodeled this trailer. I bought this trailer from my brother-in-law, who bought it from another person, to build a small off-grid, backcountry camper like I've already built many years ago on the channel. It's 4x8. It used to be like a hog hauler or a sheep hauler or whatever. It had the cattle panels all the way around it, and I've done a lot of changes with it. But it's got a fresh coat of Rust-Oleum gray paint. I used my Wagner home paint sprayer, so it definitely wasn't the appropriate sprayer for this. It wasn't an auto sprayer by any means. So what it looks like is some guy came outside with a Wagner home paint sprayer and 25 mile an hour south winds, and had a bucket of oranges right here to get the appropriate texture throughout the entire trailer. And it looks like a bunch of oranges, but I don't care. This used to be just a really rough gray scraped up paint, and now it's a little bit fresher and it looks nicer. New painted tires and new rubber, so we're good to go there. Talk about the pump real quick. The pump is a Red Lion 208cc pump. I can't even remember. It's 150 gallons per minute. 150 gallons per minute. That's pretty significant for a semi-trash pump. And now it's not a Honda motor that I wanted to have on it, but I couldn't spend $700 for a motor. And if I do have an issue with this, I can get it repaired or replaced with the warranty that it does have supplied. But it was $300 for the pump as opposed to $700 for the Honda pump. And if something does happen to this, I still have another $300. I can go back and buy a new one and change all the fittings out. I have a 275 gallon IBC tote that I've had for many years for this purpose. We used it for 6 months living in our camper with a 12 volt transfer pump to supply water directly to our camper. That way we weren't using a garden hose or anything else, or toting water into my onboard tank. So I had 275 gallons of water at the ready for my camper, which I've now used it for this. I've got it set up so I can have a hard line directly from the tank. This is 2-inch fittings. This is a 2-inch pump, so everything's 2-inch. So it comes from the tank, it sucks in, 2-inch, goes out. Have a recirculating hose in line with a ball valve, so we can drive around, continuing to have the pump running on idle or on high. It recirculates the water through the pump and through the tank. And I can shut that off and go to my 3/4 inch garden hose. It's a heavier, I think it's actually 7/8, almost 1 inch garden hose. The inside diameter is much thicker than a regular garden hose. But I wanted everything garden hose fitting just because it's a little more common around here, and I didn't want to go and get like a firefighting hose, just because those even the single wall or the double wall fire hose is still expensive for what it is. So I've got a heavier duty 75-foot commercial grade, farm grade water hose over here. I will eventually have a hose reel, but I haven't got that in the mail yet. Right here is a hard suction cap. So basically I've got a T right here, it comes from the tank, and then I can uncap this and I'll turn off the tank and then put a hard suction line. I think it has 25 foot ahead. Let me see here. It shuts off at 92 feet, so I got 75 foot of hose, so I can go another 25 foot and be on the verge of stuff. But I think it's got, it doesn't even say on here, I think it's 25 foot of suction. So basically I could put a 25 foot suction hose and toss it in a pond or a lake, or even a firefighting, I know they got a name for it, the tanks, the drop tanks, to fill this up. I can suck out of that and refill my tank directly from the suction hose. Basically I would just turn off the garden hose part of it and recirculate it, and while also turning off the tank itself, and I have enough suction to refill the tank. It's a pretty cool idea. All my fittings are, well, these are Gator Lock brand, but they're all the cam lock fittings. I've got Banjo fittings and Gator Lock. They're just generic, the same thing. The Gator Lock does have the locking pins on them, while the the Banjo fittings that I've got do not. So I like the Gator Locks because they actually have the pins in place. They're all polymer, or whatever polymer makeup they are, so they're not susceptible to the cost differences. Like for a ball valve, like brass ball valve, that if it cracks when it freezes, it could be an issue with the cost of it. So these aren't too costly. I can afford to replace them if I had an issue with that. But I've got the 2-inch line, which is like $1 a foot, and I've got 8 foot total. Not too bad for my local farm supply store. Like I said, everything is Banjo brand for the fittings, or the Gator Lock. So I can replace them locally fairly easy. It's not PVC. I think it's probably a little bit stronger than regular old Schedule 80 PVC. This is Schedule 80, but when you look at the connections, they just seem a little more sturdy. So I'm going to show you how it runs. It runs really, really nice. It throws a good stream out there. I've got a couple different nozzles that I use thus far, just testing them out, and I think it'll work to defend our homestead and to water the gardens and the trees and that kind of stuff surrounding it. Okay, now if the lines were completely dry, I would go ahead and prime it myself with taking the cap off on the top of the pump itself and filling the suction or the reservoir. But it is a self-priming pump. It has a one-way valve in there, and so it'll create suction in the pump, and then you can go ahead and let it go like that. Let's start off by, obviously it has an on-off switch over here, turns the choke. One pull, this thing normally starts right up, but I've got this off and the recirculating pump off, and I'll show you how quick it works. It gets suction going really quick. Of course my lines are charged, but the recirculating pump is actually really important, because if you just if you're not having water actually flow through and the pump's just running, yes, there'll be water in the pump, but you can do some damage to it. All right, you can see there's 150 gallons in here. It's not splashing around. There we go. You heard a little bit of change in the motor maybe, but now it's circulating. Unfortunately, this is a straight shot, so when I power this up, it really gets to mixing. And I do want to apologize if this microphone with my iPhone combination is not doing too good, if it's cutting out. It does not like the sounds of the motor or wind for some reason. Anyways, it's pumping pretty good right there. Alright, so a quick demonstration of this hose working. I'm going to turn off the recirculating pump and then turn on the hose and get it going out there. It really does throw a stream, even on idle, but I'm going to go ahead and kick it up. And we're going to get some grass. We got this grass out here that's actually starting to come up. Or maybe some weeds, I don't know, whatever you want to be. We'll see how far it goes out there. Alright, so what do I have in this project? Well, I paid $300 for the trailer. It's not 100%, what I would do for a trailer necessarily. Like I said, this did have rails all the way around it, and it had the hog panels and stuff on it, but the rails seemingly always got in the way. I did keep the front and the rear. The reason I kept those on there is because I'm going to be storing tools up here. I'm going to get some PVC pipe, and then I can put my shovel in there, or a hoe, or a rake, or whatever it be, and that way I can actually have those with me while I'm doing these jobs, whether it be fighting fire or watering the garden or whatever it be. So I want to be able to have those tools at the ready. Like I said, I do want to have a hose reel, but I got $300 in the trailer, $30 for the tank from many years ago. You can find these from well under $100. This was an lactic acid tank from a meat processing plant. So that's not a bad deal to be getting way back when, anyways. I know you can find them for anywhere from like cheap or free to $100 regularly. A food grade container would be much better. One that's never had oils or anything would be nice, because you don't want to put that on your plants. But the lactic acid, I'm not too worried about it. $300 on the trailer, $30 for the tank, $300 for the pumps. That's $630. The fittings were $200 total. Like I said, those are banjo fittings. They're a little more pricey, but they're not necessarily the cost of, say, a ball valve, or brass fittings and steel fittings. The brass ball valves, 2-inch ball valves, are anywhere from $60 to $75 a piece, and that is really expensive. You could go PVC, but you'll be replacing those fairly quickly. And then I got a whole new 2x10 deck on it. Those were unfortunately $20 a piece locally, 8-footers, and then the cost of paint was $30 a gallon. So I've lost count. 300, 600, 630, 700, actually no, 800 because of the fittings. So 800, and then 2 new tires were $200. So $1,000 basically, guys. You could have this well under $2,000. If you want like a firefighting skid or something like that, you could go buy one for $1,500 to $4,000 or $5,000. This is a temporary mobile plan. I would much rather have a truck with a fire skid on it. That way I'm not toting around this, especially around the tall grass and the prairie and that kind of stuff. But this will actually go well with my tractor, and my truck or my Jeep could pull it, and I could use it. Like I said, I do plan on getting a hose reel. But my thought is that if you had a two-man team, you could have somebody driving around and you could have somebody sitting right here where the hose goes, or on the hose or whatever it be, and fighting fire and moving around. It's 75 foot, but you'll have plenty of space to do stuff. So it's not a bad deal to have a plan, especially if you live in the circumstances that we do with the prairie grass surrounding your property. Now, I do want to burn, and so that's why I wanted to make sure I had a plan in place and a way to control the fire a little bit better than what would happen if I didn't have one. Because, as soon as I lit this, prairie grass on fire and I didn't have a plan to fight it if it got out of control, I would have a massive wildfire on my part, and I don't want that. That would be a horrible situation and a costly one for the taxpayer. So if you have any questions as to what you would do or what I would do different, there's not really a whole lot I would do different necessarily. Besides having a dedicated truck, a fire truck, a 1 ton or 3/4 ton truck that has its own skid on it. Maybe the better engine, but everything else I feel like is pretty good. I do want to have a better hose system, but I figured that a 2-inch pump to a 3/4 inch garden hose is pretty significant. That's sucking a lot of water and pushing a lot of volume out of that smaller hose. So a lot of pressure. I like that a lot. And I got 75 foot of hose right now. I could definitely go get another 75 foot hose and have plenty of distance. Of course, I'm going to lose some pressure at that 150 feet, but I'd have plenty of hose there to be able to do what I wanted to do. So, anyways, like I said, if you have any questions, let me know down below. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, like button. I really appreciate it. Keep calm and carry on, and stay safe. See you later.